Hey, good morning, guys. It's me, Devianamagenta, and today I thought I would talk about the combat system that I have for this game. So, combat looks like this. It's got two 9x9 grids that one thing can stand in each, and then over here it's got like speed bars, so it'll show like little circles in there that represent the different game pieces on the board, and when they move towards the center it'll get to be their turn, and that's based on a speed statistic that each individual game piece will have. Then over here we've got the 4 combat buttons. We've got strike, which is just a basic attack. It doesn't use any like magic points or health points, and you just pick one enemy and hit it. Then there's actions, so that has like the special skills in which each like game piece can use, like magic or a special skill that they know. Then we've got items. Of course, you can like eat food items or use combat items like bandages or whatever. And then swap is like, it lets you either move the character whose turn it is to a different place for strategic purposes, or switch them out for another character, and you can only have up to 4 characters out here at a time, not counting like AI allies like the foxes or like Carrie and Perry. You don't actually control them, but they will help you sometimes. And then here will be like the information about the selected game piece that like tells you its combat range and its element and how much HP it has. And then each battle will start with the enemies already placed so that the player can strategize around them. And at the start, before a battle, the only button that you have access to is swap. So you can like place characters down and arrange them how you like. And once you've got at least one character on the board, the strike button will temporarily be like a start battle button for whenever you're ready. You could place up to 4 characters at a time, not counting the AI allies. You can't move the AI allies, so if there's AI allies already on there, you have to work around them. Then there's like 2 ways you could play. There's offensive and defensive that you want to consider. So if 2 game pieces are in the same like column, they will both deal more damage to each other, which is like a more offensive way to play. And if they're not in the same column, then they will deal less damage to each other, which is a more defensive way to play. And you want to kind of balance those depending on how many enemies you've got on the board. Then there's combat ranges. Every game piece, including allies and enemies, will have a combat range. So close combat means that you're hitting the like 1 to 2 spaces away, so that's for characters like Lucius. Then there's like medium distance, which means that you're hitting like stuff that's slightly farther away, 1 or 2 rows of distance between you. And then long range means that there's 2+ rows of distance between you, so like the stuff that's farther away. And both allies and enemies have combat distance like bonuses. They get 25% more damage to opposing pieces in their ideal range. And then the last thing that you have to think about is like elemental stuff. So like air blows water, water extinguishes fire, fire burns earth, earth blocks out light, light illuminates darkness, and then darkness connects back to air just to make it a circle. I couldn't really think of a justification for that. With Multus being kind of in the middle, same thing with like Nonlers. And then last but not least, I wanted to talk about like the difficulty slider and the settings. Naturally, it will be resting at like the middle where it's like 1. If you drag it to the left, it'll become like less than 1. And if you drag it to the right, it'll become more than 1. So it goes from relaxed and story focused to brutal smackdown. And it'll affect enemy offense, defense, crit and dodge chance, and the chance to do a special attack. For some story battles, the defense is not affected because you have to like survive for a period of time. And then I've come up with what I think are good, like, multipliers for that, but I might have to adjust these later as I see fit once I've gotten into the actual playtesting section. So for offense, it'll be the normal times the modifier times 2, unless 2 times the modifier is larger than 1. Then for defense, it'll just be normal times the modifier, because I don't want to buff defense too much since it'll just drag battles out unnecessarily. Crit and dodge chance will be the normal times the modifier times 2, same for like the chance to do a special attack. For the brutal smackdown stuff, I had to like, a lot more math went into this, so that's why there's like some things scribbled out. For offense, it'll be normal times the modifier times 3/20ths, so that it doesn't get too ridiculous. So for context, like 100 turns into 1,500 under this scenario. Defense is normal times the modifier times 1/20th. Crit and dodge chance is normal plus 1/2 of the modifier percent, up to 99%. So like, if I had like 75% and this was set to like 25, then it would be like 75% plus like a half of 25%. So yeah, that's the combat system, and I want it to be like strategy based. I want the player to have to like think hard about what they're doing at the normal setting, and especially as you get towards the brutal smackdown mode. Probably at like 100, it might be almost impossible to win most battles, especially like the boss battles. But, you know, I want to give people the option to get totally pummeled into the ground if that's what they like from video games. And at the same time, I want to give an option for, like, if you've got, like, not a lot of time, or you don't want to strategize because you've just had a long day of work, or you're letting your, like, friend play who's new to video games, or that sort of thing. Or if you just want to focus on the story without being stressed, you know? I tend to play more on the low end of difficulty for things, so I like when games have accessibility options for that. Of course, at the very bottom end of this is gonna be almost impossible to lose because the enemies will be dealing like 2-3 damage to you, sort of thing. But like, that might be for if your like kid brother is playing or whatever. And this would be for like masochists. Yes.